Resident Evil has been a terrifying and thrilling game for years. Today, we're ranking 3 of the best games in the series, in our opinion. Each game has its strengths, from intense storylines to unforgettable villains, but we're breaking them down across 5 categories: storyline, protagonists, villains, difficulty, and gameplay. Good horror games should have a constant but memorable storyline with protagonists that are fun to play as, but also someone that you can connect with. The villains, enemies, and difficulty should add a strong horror aspect to the game while still making sure it's an enjoyable experience when encountering them. The game shouldn't be too hard for new players, but also be able to be challenging for experienced ones. The gameplay can vary, as games from different times are going to follow different molds for popular gameplay styles as to when they came out, but in general, it shouldn't frustrate you too bad and have a relatively equal balance between the mechanics and graphics of the game. Coming in at number 3 on our list is the Resident Evil 2 remake. In Resident Evil 2, you play as 2 young protagonists trying to survive a zombie outbreak in Raccoon City. The story is tense and gripping, following our characters as they try to escape the city, but also figure out how and why this happened. Our 2 main characters are Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield. Leon is a rookie cop freshly graduated from the police academy, while Claire is a university student. Both are great characters. Leon is the classic hero, while Claire is a tough survivor. From the very first boss, the Tyrant, to the multiple mutated creatures throughout the game, Resident Evil 2's villains and enemies are pretty scary as well as difficult. The Tyrant is terrifying as he relentlessly stalks you through the police station, and zombies and mutated creatures such as Lickers and G-Mutants add the typical enemy interaction you'd expect to see in these kinds of games. The game leans heavily into survival horror. Managing your ammo and resources is key to making it to the end of the game. The puzzles in the game can also be pretty challenging depending on what you have to do, and having that good mix of puzzle and standard gameplay makes every moment feel like a fight for survival. The Resident Evil 2 remake does an amazing job updating the classic gameplay. The graphics are gorgeous, making it seem way newer than it is, and helping to bring a lot of new players into the Resident Evil franchise.
Next, we have Resident Evil Village at number 2. Storyline. Village follows Ethan Winters as he searches for his kidnapped daughter Rose in a hidden European village. Ethan must fight his way through horrors in the hopes of saving his daughter. Along the way, he faces monstrous lords and uncovers shocking truths about his own past. The story is somewhat emotional and keeps you engaged by the amazing survival horror moments and detail. Protagonist. Ethan Winters is a solid everyman protagonist, and his determination to save Rose makes him relatable. However, his lack of strong personality often makes him feel like a blank slate. While his persistence is admirable, he doesn't compare to other characters in the gaming franchise, like Leon and Chris. Villains. The real stars of Resident Evil Village are the villains. Lady Dimitrescu, Donna Beneviento, and Heisenberg each bring a distinct flair and unforgettable style to the game, creating some of the most iconic moments in the series. Tying them all together is Mother Miranda, the main villain of the story. Difficulty. On standard difficulty, Village strikes a decent balance, but leans towards being overly manageable. Boss fights are creative and engaging, but regular enemies rarely push players to their limits, unless on higher difficulties. For experienced fans, this can make the overall challenge feel a little bit underwhelming. Gameplay. The first-person view makes it feel a little more real, and the amazing graphics look better than ever for the series. But after a while, the gameplay gets a little too repetitive. Once you get used to the fighting and exploring, it stops being as scary, which makes it less intense as you go on.
And finally comes Resident Evil 4's number 1 best Resident Evil game. Storyline. Leon Kennedy is sent to a remote European village to rescue the president's daughter, Ashley Graham. What starts as a standard mission turns into a fight for survival as Leon uncovers a sinister cult that battles monsters' enemies. The story is a perfect blend of action and horror that keeps you engaged. Protagonist. Leon is at his best here. Charismatic, skilled, and always ready with a sarcastic one-liner. Leon is also a little more mature than his RE2 counterpart after the events of Raccoon City. However, he still makes time for his classic one-liners and jokes. Villains. The villains are some of the most iconic in the franchise, from Menendez to Salazar and Krauser. Tying them all together is Sadler, who is the main antagonist of the game. Difficulty. Resident Evil 4 hits the sweet spot when it comes to difficulty. The puzzles are engaging without feeling overly frustrating, and the combat challenges you without feeling unfair. The parry mechanic adds more flair to Leon's arsenal, making it even more satisfying to take down enemies. Gameplay. The remake takes everything great about the original and makes it better. The controls are smooth, the graphics are stunning, and it strikes a perfect balance between action and survival horror. It's hard to find a single weak spot, which is why it is first in our opinion. Resident Evil 4 Remake delivers unforgettable action, smooth gameplay, and a story that sticks with you, ranking it as number 1 best Resident Evil game. It fits perfectly into our 5 criteria. Hopefully our explanations and reasonings are something that you can agree with, but maybe let's have to play its amazing games for yourself and see. Thanks for watching!